Cisco Spotfire Data Streams is a Spotfire add-on product that powers real-time data in Spotfire. In Spotfire, you can analyze and visualize what's happening right now. This is a sample Spotfire dashboard. I am not going to focus on how to build such a dashboard. Instead, I'm going to demonstrate how to bring in real-time data in Spotfire using the new connectivity wizard in the product Spotfire Data Streams. Here is Spotfire. Just like how you'd connect to a historical data source, for real-time data, under File, Connect, you choose Spotfire Data Streams. Before you can see the streaming data here, you need to configure the data sources in Spotfire Data Streams. You can download Spotfire Data Streams from eDelivery once you have the product installed. Open the studio, and here is the connectivity wizard that I will demonstrate today. The wizard offers you step-by-step walkthrough on how to connect to a streaming data source. The idea is to make it very simple for data admins to be able to connect to most commonly used streaming data sources. And then power users can also use Streaming Studio that's behind this dialog to connect to easily over 50 plus other data sources. After launching the connectivity wizard, the first choice you have to pick is your source type. These are the most common streaming data sources at the moment, which are currently available in the connectivity wizard. We will be adding more data sources over time. If you don't see a data source you want to connect to on the connectivity wizard, you can always use the full power of Studio to connect to dozens of other different streaming data sources. Here, let's choose, for example, MQTT, quite common Internet of Things sensor type protocol for streaming sources. The wizard is intended to be a guided method. The goal is to enable you to configure streaming data tables without writing any code. Again, power users who need to do advanced operations that you don't see in this wizard have the full power of the studio. Here we will connect to MQTT server where my racing data is coming from. The next thing we do is the wizard tries to assist you in discovering data that's available on this MQTT bus. Many of these streaming data sources are usually shared with you, like on message buses of sorts that can carry a lot of data for different applications. Given the URL of your streaming source, the wizard detects what all topics or queues exist on the bus and presents those back to the user. In our use case, it found the car data stream that we are looking for. And right after, I can check the schema by sniffing messages that are going by in real time. In this case, this corresponds to the data we saw before. Another thing that the users need to pick is the type of the streaming data. There are two types. There is a time series of data, which is simply every event is important. Every event is to be stored. In our example, we have car going around in the lab. Every data point is of interest. For key data, that's when you wish to analyze latest data points for given entity. For example, if you are monitoring buses in a city, there's only so many buses, and for each bus, you just want to have the latest data. Here you'd pick key data, where you are only storing the latest for each bus. The next thing is how much data will be retained in the window. And the key to understand here is that streaming data, by definition, is data that's constantly changing, constantly being pushed, and events that are appearing at all times. What you want is a window on that data. This will depend on the resources available and use case requirements. Depending on your data rates and whether you want to store last hours of data versus last weeks of data, that would determine the resources required. And then after that, the wizard will ask you to configure authentication. For this demo purpose, we will set it to allow any connection and move to next screen. Finally, to work in DevOps world, which is fairly popular, there's two modes of using this wizard. One is to create something that you then pass on to someone to deploy. And also if your organization is using containerization and compatible with Docker images, the wizard can generate a Docker image for the streaming data source that you are building. When you click Finish, in few seconds, the wizard proceeds to generate two projects for you. A live view project with a live streaming table In addition, the wizard creates a stream-based application project which can be deployed into a stream-based runtime node. If you specified the Docker option, the application image is installed in your local Docker registry. You can deploy and run this Docker image using standard Docker commands. Deploying a Spotfire Data Streams live table either to a runtime node or to Docker is beyond the scope of this demonstration. When we hit Start Server at the bottom, once the server starts, the data immediately begins to publish to the live table. By default, it will run on your local host on port 10080. What this does is, I've created an entire server application that will connect to a streaming data source, in this case MQTT topic, and then present it and make it available to Spotfire as we saw before. This shows up in connectivity list under Spotfire Data Streams. Anything I ran with that connectivity wizard then becomes available here as a connection.